Get ready to party.
I'm Greg.
I'm Julie, and we're the Crafty Winers.
We're using power tools again today.
Oh, yes. We are actually going to do a Moscato today, which is new for us. We do a lot of red wines and some white wines, but this is the first Moscato we've done. So I'm kind of excited about it. And I know a lot of people, when they think Moscato, or at least I was one of these people, I think of the pink, bubbly stuff that's like 5% alcohol sitting on the Walmart shelf.
We don't do 5%.
But Moscato is actually more complicated than that. So this is a concentrate from the Muscat grape. And basically Moscato is just the Italian word for the Muscat family of grapes, which includes over 200 varieties, I found out.
Oh, we have lots of wines in there. We're going to do every variety,
You're
right?
going to have to go to Italy to get some of them. So in the...
Okay.
Okay, yeah. But they won't let you through customs with grapes.
Really?
Yeah. Remember? They ask you if you got any fruit.
Well, we haven't been to Italy, so maybe they're different.
No, when you come back into the U.S., they ask you if you have fruit. So
Yeah, we do. 200 varieties.
a whole suitcase full.
Might need extra suitcases.
But most of the Moscato here in the U.S. comes from California, and the variety they typically use is the Muscat Blanc variety, which this most likely is. I don't know that for sure. The grapes can range in color from yellow to even actually a dark purple, which I had no idea that Moscato even came in that color. And they are one of the oldest species of grapes. Some of the websites I read information on said they are the oldest species of grapes, but I'm not going to go out on that.
Meaning that all the other grapes were derived from...
I guess. Evolution?
Well, I assume if they know that it's the oldest grape, that means that it's been in recent history that they...
Yeah.
So red grapes were derived somehow from white grapes?
No, but they come in different colors. So they range in color from yellow to a dark purple. So yeah, probably a lot of the grapes we buy at the store to eat originated from those grapes in Italy.
Interesting.
They are actually commonly used as a table grape, and they make raisins out of them, which is, I thought, interesting. So Moscato normally comes in white or pink. That's what we see normally, but it also does come in red. It also comes in still varieties as well as sparkling and even dessert wines. So it's very versatile. And the pink Moscato, which most people associate with Moscato, is actually, it's a white Moscato, and they mix a small amount of Merlot with it to make it pink. So we might try that.
We have Merlot.
Yeah, we have tons of Merlot. So anyway, that's your history lesson on the Moscato wine for today. And let's get started. So we've got Nature Blessed Muscat Juice Concentrate.
Came from Amazon.
Came from Amazon.
We warmed it by a heater because otherwise it's very thick.
Yeah, it comes out really thick and separated, so we put it out to warm up first. It's so weird not having the funnel. I really like this pitcher thing.
Yeah, so we recently started using this pitcher to do all of our primary work in because it just makes everything so much simpler. And then we'll move it, one of the last steps, we'll move it to a carboy. This makes it so I don't have to shake jugs anymore, which I love.
No. Now I just got to find something new to whine about.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
So I put a little bit of purified water in here to get all the good juices out. I don't want to waste anything.
Then we're going to fill this up to 96 ounces. It's on the side of the pitcher, makes it nice and easy.
Sure does. You don't have to etch this.
I still kind of feel the temptation of etching it, but I'm going to control myself.
Oh, almost.
Everything we're using today, anything that's going to touch the wine has been sanitized. That's always what you want to do first. That's the first thing that we do is mix up our sanitizer.
Star sand. All right. So we've got it filled up to 96.
You don't want to use tap water if your tap water might have chlorine in it.
Yeah, we use purified water.
Doesn't need to be distilled, and I probably wouldn't recommend distilled. but bottled water from Walmart's pretty cheap. So we're at 96 ounces. We're going to stop here because we're going to put sugar in. It's a great opportunity to introduce you to our tools.
Yep.
If you go to craftywiners.com/tools, you will find three new tools. If you have suggestions for other things that we don't have, let me know because we can develop them.
For sure.
But we're going to use one that will tell us how much sugar to add. And it will take into account what the gravity is now at 3/4 full. As we add water, the gravity is going to lower. So it predicts how much it's going to lower so that it gives us the right amount of sugar, even at 3/4 full. And we normally put up on the screen what the formula is. Use the tool. It's a lot easier.
Yes.
And it links to the formula. If you want to know how to do it manually, just go to the tool and follow the link to the PDF that tells you how it works.
Oh man, no more math lessons.
No more math. I don't have to bring my calculator out. We don't have to try to use a phone, which is a problem.
Yes, because they're all in use.
I almost made a mistake here. I do want to stir this up before I take the hydrometer so that it's real incorporated.
This is part of our new method too. This is a pumpkin gutter, and it works really well for stirring things.
We'll link to it on Amazon.
Yep.
So before you take your hydrometer, mix it up so that it's consistently mixed. You'd be able to use what do you call it, an egg beater or a mixer if your mixer thing was long enough to get in there with it. But these pumpkin beaters are nice, and almost everybody has a drill. And it's long enough to get down to the bottom of it. So I would suggest it over an egg beater, probably.
Or a spoon. I mean, you can always stir it, but...
If you don't know anything about hydrometers or specific gravities, watch our video on that. We'll link it. But I'm going to find out what the gravity is now so that we can type it in to the tool to tell us how much sugar to add. We have decided... So the Moscato... ABV that Alexa told us was between 5 and 7, which
is really low.
It's kind of low, so I think we've decided that we want 10% alcohol, and the tool lets you tell it exactly what percent you want so that it tells you exactly the right amount of sugar. It's a pretty handy tool. We won't find anywhere else because we came up with the formula. At least we won't find anywhere else at the time of this recording. Okay, so our specific gravity right now. This is not an initial gravity. This is just a specific gravity that is a measurement allowing us to get to our initial gravity. I'm going to call it 1.111.
Really? 1.111.
That's what I'm going to call it.
I wrote it down. So... You can't see this, but I have a laptop over here.
I'm going to put it up. Yeah, if you get a laptop, I'm going to put I'll put the actual web page tool up on the screen so that you can kind of see what she entered.
So I put in what the specific gravity is right now, 1.111, and then you put in your desired ABV, which is 10.
10.
And then 1 gallon.
1 gallon.
Oh, I need to change this. So you put in how full your vessel is.
So if you are doing something that is not from concentrate, let's say that you're doing just pure Moscato juice, you'll leave the percentage where it is at 100. The only time you're going to change that to something else is if you're adding water to concentrate. That's so that it can predict what the specific gravity is going to be when you have added enough water to make it a full gallon. So that's the only time you're going to change that. And since that is exactly what we're doing, we're adding water to concentrate right now. We're at 3/4 full, so she's going to change that to 75%.
75%. So then it tells me that the desired initial gravity is going to be 1.076 for 10%.
So this is a new issue for us. We don't usually try to do this low of ABV wines. What the tool told us is that we needed to remove 3 ounces of sugar.
Which is impossible.
Because all we're adding now is water.
Yeah.
We could overfill this and possibly make it work out because we'd be diluting the sugar by adding too much water, but we don't want to mess with that.
No.
We're just going to change the ABV. The ABV without adding any sugar to this is going to be
10.9.
About 10.9, and we're happy with that.
That's fine.
So the tool told us, and I'll have to make a little improvement probably before you watch this video. I'll make an improvement to this tool to make it really clear that the negative 3 ounces that it said to add means there's already too much sugar to do what you're wanting to do.
Yeah.
So we're not. This is very rare. We're not adding sugar to our must for one of the first times, but the first time on camera. So
Yeah.
and I did double check the tool since it's new. I did
And
the
it
math
worked.
on calculator, and
It was
correct.
was correct. All right, so now we just need to put water in it.
So now we're going to go ahead and fill it up with water to the 1 gallon mark. And then I'm going to mix it up with my power tool. Again, very good. So if you weren't okay with the higher ABV, if you really wanted 7 or you wanted 10 and not 10.8 like we're going to end up with, you can accomplish that. And the way you would do that is by diluting it. Pour about a quarter of this out into another container, and then keep adding water until you get to the starting gravity that you want. We're not going to do that. For one, we don't like to waste it. And for another, we're fine with high ABV drinks. She's probably going to end up carbonating this.
That's the plan.
You know, we don't want it to be a weak soda.
It's not going to be soda. It's sparkling wine.
We don't want it to be weak.
No, we don't. Plus, I don't know how that would affect the flavor, too.
It would probably make it less flavorful if you dilute it. But that if you are really wanting it to be a lower ABV than what it naturally is with the sugar that's in there, you can accomplish that. You could also try to end the fermentation early.
That's true, yeah.
Which may or may not work out for you, but at that point you're going to have to keep testing it, and when it gets to the ABV that you want, you would add your potassiums and put it in the fridge so that it's not friendly to the yeast anymore. And you probably could stop it at a lower ABV and it's going to be sweet. We probably will end up back sweetening this after it goes dry, and that's the way that we prefer to do it. But it's your wine, do it the way you want to do it.
I think we will probably have to back sweeten it, but I may be wrong.
Again, it's the first time we've done this particular wine. So I stirred it up really good. I'm going to get our initial gravity. We don't need the baster, so she put it up because this pitcher has a pour spout.
We use the baster still because it's just habit. But we don't need to.
You can carefully pour that in there.
That was a good job.
We are expecting a certain specific gravity.
Yes, we are.
Of around, what was it?
1.083-ish.
Well, how about that? 1.083.
Perfect.
So the tool came up with the right prediction for the specific gravity at the gallon mark. I mean, just if you don't believe me, I don't know that I can zoom on it that well, but it's there. It's 1.083.
Cool. So
we are done with this. We need to add pectic enzyme. We're not adding tannin to this because it's not a red wine. Some white wines you might want tannin in, I suppose, but not this one.
Okay, so I'm putting half a teaspoon of peptic enzyme and a little bit of the must and stirring it up to get it dissolved, and this stuff takes a little bit to get stirred up.
Using the power tool, you can just put the pectic enzyme right on here, but when we did it that way last time, it just sits on top of the foam.
Yeah.
So we're doing it this way this time. Okay, pectic enzyme is in there. Now we're going to take the pH. We have a video on pH manipulation. You can go watch if you are not familiar with pH. We're going to do very limited amount of explaining on this, so go watch our other video if you don't understand what we're talking about. We do want the pH level to be between 4 and 6 for the yeast to be successful, and it is 4.36.
Oh, that's not too far off.
So what we're going to do now, we're not going to show you all this on camera because of the way that we have to do it in real life. We're going to add about a quarter cup of must to a measuring cup, preferably, because it's got a spout on it.
Then
This is not mandatory, but we have kind of gotten to really like Go Firm.
Yep. Yep. So
So that you use that at the hydration stage.
We've had good luck with this.
You don't have to do it, and your wine will probably still come out good. But this seems to make it so that the fermentation is shorter and it more consistently goes dry. So we put in 2 teaspoons of Go Firm first into the must. We're going to mix it up. We're going to let it get to about 80 degrees by a little heater that we have.
Ooh, just barely.
We do let our little jars go completely empty before we refill them. We have plenty more Go Firm, but we want to keep there from being expired product down at the bottom. So she's going to mix this in really good to the must. We're going to let this heat up to about 80 degrees, and then we're going to put our premier, I'm not going to even try to say this right.
Cote de Blanc.
Is it Cote de Blanc's Red Star yeast that we're using on this. We have a cider yeast that we really like on whites, and you'll see that in our other white wine videos, but we've got a big supply of this Red Star Cote de Blanc's yeast, and not too long before they expire, so we're going to be using a lot of this. And we've had decent luck with this in the past as well. So.
And you can also get it on Amazon. It's a little easier to get than the cider yeast we have.
It'll be in our links below.
Okay. I heated this up in the microwave for about 15 seconds to get it to be about 95 degrees. And then I'm going to put in our yeast, sprinkle it on top.
You don't want to stir the yeast. You don't want to damage the yeast holes, for lack of a better term. So you should just dunk in it. And yeast has got to be one of the stickiest substances on earth.
Look at that.
It really likes to stick. So that can sometimes be a little source of irritation. If I need something to whine about, it'll be trying to get the yeast off whatever you stir it with.
That's
without damaging the yeast. So I've found that if you just find an area that doesn't have yeast in it by stirring it, a lot of times you can get it off. But I mean, worst case, sanitize your finger and just use your finger to get it off. It really is. Yeast is sticky, and it's that way because it needs to stick to plants and things that it blows into. So it's that way by design. I did just sanitize my hands a second ago, so
I saw him. I can vouch for it.
Don't be grossed out by this.
He stuck them in the star sand.
So that's good. Now let this sit in a warm area for
2 hours?
2 hours is good. A little bit less you'd get away with. But you want it to be nice and bubbly. Corgis are mock fighting.
They're starting the sneeze fest.
So it's all in the carboy that it's going to ferment in. So we're going to wait for the yeast to finish hydrating for about 2 hours, and it'll be nice and lively. We will pour it into this. I'll swish it around a little bit. You don't want the yeast to be stuck at the top layer of liquid, so swish it around a little bit. We put a bung with hole and a blow-off tube because there's so little headroom here that this is going to be coming out the top when the fermentation starts going really good.
For sure.
That's a good thing, but you want to make sure that you've got a blow-off tube that it can go into. The other end of the blow-off tube is going to go into the sanitizer that we've got left. So it's not wasted. You're using that sanitizer. That makes it so that bugs and other bacteria cannot get into your wine, but the CO2 can come out of it through the blow-off tube and bubble into the liquid that, again, won't let anything back into the tube.
And as a note, I don't think I've said this before in our white wine videos, but I come down here every day during the beginning fermentation process and take this out and then swirl it around a little bit to introduce more oxygen into it.
Yeah, oxygen is good. You'll want to stop doing that after about no later than 3 weeks. That last week or two of fermentation with a white wine. Well, white wine fermentation takes about a month.
Mm-hmm.
So the last third of that fermentation time, you don't want to keep introducing oxygen. So she quits doing that after about 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
With Go Firm method, we're also going to add Fermento.
Oh yeah.
So for red wine, Fermento, about a teaspoon of Fermento after the 3rd day. For white wine, I double it. So it'd be about the 6th day, I'll add a teaspoon of Fermento per gallon. And then again, for red wines, on the 7th day, I add a 1/4 teaspoon of Fermento. So again, double that. 14th day for white wine, I add a 1/4 teaspoon of Fermento. This makes it so that very consistently these wines are going dry.
Mm-hmm.
They're not stalling. They're not staying a little sweet. they go completely dry.
And
If
we
you don't
were.
want the dryness, then you can adjust from how we do it. But
We were having that happen from time to time until we started doing this method. And now it's pretty consistent.
yeah.
So I think we'll stick with it. You girls want a treat? You girls want a treat?
You say treat.
Is that a dumb question? Of course it is. Okay, let's do our
Don't jump
thing.
up.
Let's do it. Don't jump. Okay, can you roll over? Can you guys roll over? Oh, that wasn't exactly a roll over.
She got interfered with. Interference.
Can you roll over? Nori. Yeah, oh, good, good, good. Now you roll over, Nori.
Go that way so they can see the faces.
Okay, come here. Roll over. Ah, good job. Good job. Good job. Okay, so it has been 12 days since we started this Moscato. Not for you guys, obviously. And we are going to rack it now. And it looks like our final gravity ended up 0.992, which is very dry.
Very dry.
And that calculates out to 12.5 ABV. That was a little higher than what we were shooting for, but
we were expecting it to go to 1.000, not 0.992. So
yeah, and the ABV was a little bit higher than we were shooting for.
because of the sugar was already in it. So
Yeah, so Moscato grapes have a lot of sugar already in them, which is typically why Moscato is sweet. But we'll explain a little bit of what we did here in a minute. But we're going to go ahead and rack this first with our handy dandy auto siphon. Oh, you see, we are drinking Moscato.
We're drinking Barefoot brand Moscato because we don't have any right
Yet.
now. Yet.
We will shortly.
This is pretty good. It's what, 8%?
I think 9. I think it was 9.
So if you're new to winemaking or new to our videos, this is called an auto siphon, and it's much easier to use than a manual siphon that you might get in a winemaking kit. You just pump this up and down 2 or 3 times and it starts the siphon just that easily.
We use this for bottling to mix everything easier.
Okay, so towards the end, I always tilt the jug so that the depth of the wine is greater, because I want the siphon to keep going as long as I can without having any of the lees, which is the sediment at the bottom, getting into my hose. Okay, so we got everything cleaned up and out of the way that we didn't need. Everything that we're using tonight has been sanitized. The very first thing that we do, anything that's going to touch the wine, including my hands.
Which does tend to take a toll on your skin.
I've got star sand hand.
Okay.
I use my right hand more because of my Apple Watch, so this is the hand that gets affected.
You need Star Sand hand lotion.
Yeah.
Is
So
that a
what
thing? We should start it.
What is your goal for this?
Okay, well, I guess I should explain a few things. Up to now, our recipe is basically pretty straightforward. Now, it's kind of personal preference from here on out. We did let ours go all the way dry, and there's a reason for that, and I'll explain that. And Moscato can be dry, but typically what you're going to find in your grocery store is going to be sweet.
Like this Barefoot.
Like this. It also can come in still or sparkling varieties. So my plan with this is to use natural carbonation to make it sparkling, and that is why we let it go all the way dry. If you don't want to use natural carbonation, you have the choice of not letting it go all the way dry. So tasting it throughout the fermenting process till it gets to the level of sweetness that you would like it to be.
After, this was 12 days.
It didn't take very long.
So after like the 7th or 8th day, start tasting it.
Yeah.
Because before then, it's not going to taste good, and there's not going to be a lot of alcohol.
True. And then when you get to where you think it's a good taste
Good
and
sweetness level.
and your gravity level gives you an alcohol percentage that you're happy with, they can range anywhere from, I think we've got one that's 5, which doesn't even seem right, but
We haven't tasted it yet.
Moscatos can range.
That's like a beer level. It's not
Yeah.
wine level. So we didn't want ours that low for sure.
Yeah, so they can range from like 5 to 10. So anyway, once you get to your desired level of sweetness and ABV, you can halt the fermentation process by pasteurizing it.
That's the only way of stopping a fermentation dead in its tracks. Adding potassium, sorbate, and metabisulfite, which we do if we're going to back sweeten, will not stop the fermentation that's in process. What it does is just makes it harder for a new fermentation to start up again.
And on that note, we are actually not going to use those stabilizers in this.
Because she's going to naturally carbonate. I personally am doing a lot of experimentation with forced carbonation. So that would be an option for her here too, and she wouldn't have to worry about anything. She could put natural sugar in here, not worry about the fermentation starting back up when she didn't want it. So forced carbonation doesn't really care about anything of what you're carbonating. It will carbonate it. But since she wants to do this the natural way, it is a lot trickier when you're dealing with wanting to also back sweeten it. Because adding the sugar, there is a chance that this will start fermenting again for back sweetening. And you definitely don't want to put enough sugar to back sweeten it and then put it in bottles expecting it to carbonate, because you're going to have bottle bumps. That's a very measured amount of sugar that you want to use for carbonation.
Yeah, so that is why we let it go all the way dry. We're not going to put the stabilizers in, and we are going to back sweeten it, but with non-fermentable sugar. We're going to use this allulose stuff.
Which will not ferment.
And
So she gets the best of both worlds by using that, because she can still naturally carbonate it. We went completely dry, so we've got a higher ABV than what the standard is, and that's what we wanted.
so
She's also going to make it pink, which this is,
I'm going to attempt to make it pink.
it's yellow, so it may not be completely pink to start with, but the clearing agents that we put in here, we're probably going to clear this up a little bit more than it is right now.
Which is what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to put an 1/8 of a teaspoon of chiasosol in. We put that in first and let it sit for an hour before we put the chitosan and the bentonite in, so it can start working before we add the other ones. And
Yeah, the Kesasol needs some time to its own before you put the chitosan in for best effect.
so I will go ahead and do that real quick here.
And that is 1/8 of a teaspoon.
An 1/8 of a teaspoon, yes.
And then we'll stir it. You don't want to introduce a lot of oxygen, so a real gentle stir.
Okay, so we've let the chiasosol sit here for about an hour, and then I mixed in a teaspoon of chitosan and a 1/4 teaspoon of bentonite into a little bit of the must in here. I'm going to add that back in here. And the bentonite always likes to stick to the bottom, so I usually have to help rinse it out.
So about this time tomorrow, 24 hours later, this will look different. It'll be a lot clearer. So this is most likely on camera not going to turn pink.
Exactly pink.
It's not going to be clear and pink like this. It's going to probably be more of an orangish color, because this is an orangish color right now. But for purposes of this video, we're going to do it anyway. So which order do you want to do this? So that the Merlot that we chose is one that partially stalled several months ago. It's been in our fridge. See, we have a marble here blocking the airlock because it's in our fridge and there's not enough room, not enough clearance for
an airlock.
An airlock.
Yeah.
So, and we don't need an airlock anymore, so this just kind of blocks it. Where's the batch note for this?
Oh, right here. This one with a lot of scribbling on it.
Yeah, because there were a lot of. So this Merlot was started 2.5 months ago, and a month and a half ago, we declared that it was done, but it was sweet. So it had a gravity of 1.015, which you can definitely taste sugar at that gravity level. So we decided that we were going to use this to mix in with other wines to be a filler when we had too much headspace, etc.
And we haven't done that apparently because this is still full.
Yeah, we haven't done it yet.
But this is perfect wine for the sweet Moscato. So we're going to want to put this in first before we back sweeten. There is a little sugar that could ferment, technically. Although it didn't when we tried to. I rinsed out our turkey baster so that we weren't adding Moscato to our Merlot.
Turkey baster. I call it the sucky thing.
The sucky thing. That's the technical term for it. Are you going to tell me when?
Guess we put a
We're not
little
going to
in.
know till we stir it. So why don't
And
you
stir
be
it.
gently stirring while I'm gently adding.
That works. Well, that didn't do much.
And we're mainly doing this just for color, I guess.
For fun.
And then we'll find out what it does to the sweetness. We didn't taste this prior. So, and without saying, we're going to be comparing the taste to the Barefoot Moscato that we're drinking right now.
Which is quite sweet. I'm not sure what to call this color.
It's not really, it's kind of red and orange. It's not integrating 100%.
It looks like a sunset.
Tequila sunrise.
Tequila sunrise Moscato. That's a new thing. We can market that. It's not doing quite what I expected it to do, so I'm happy about that. It's not as orange as I thought it was going to be.
I should have done this a little earlier, mix this up a little bit because there could be pockets that are sweeter than others since it's been sitting for so long.
Maybe just a little bit more, and then if we need to adjust after it's clarified, I say let's stop there. We'll let this clarify some, and then if we need to tweak it a little, we'll add some more.
Which will adjust the sweetness again. But I think that should be the vast amount. And yes, I can see that being, if it was clear,
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah,
maybe a
close.
tad bit more. Just imagining what it would look like if it was cleared like that.
I think it
It's
will
probably
end
pretty
up pretty
close.
pink, yeah. Okay, so I guess now we need to taste this and decide how much sugar we're going to put in it, or not sugar,
Like loose.
allulose, which is keto friendly.
For all you wine drinkers that are on keto. Oh, one of you maybe? Sound off in the comments if you're on keto, drinking wine.
You can drink wine on keto,
But-
just like not a whole lot.
Not this.
No, definitely not that. Because I'm pretty sure they didn't use allulose to sweeten that.
Most likely Barefoot did control when the fermentation stopped.
I would think so.
So it left some residual sugar that didn't get fermented. So
Yeah, so this definitely needs sweetener. You taste it.
did you make a face?
No, I didn't make a face. It's not bad. It's just not sweet like what we're drinking. It's a little sweet, probably from that.
And this has a lot more alcohol than this.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I can taste that at the end. At the beginning, it's
A little fruity.
I mean, it tastes similar, but
Yeah.
this is just a lot more ABV. So you might want to dilute it. So we didn't add any sugar to raise the ABV.
Mhm.
So if you wanted it to be lower, and if you got the nature blessed concentrate that we used, the way to do that is going to be to dilute it a little bit. Add more water than just to the gallon mark. And then just take your specific gravities until you get the gravity to a lower number that you're happy with, around 9% ABV potential.
But keep in mind that will dilute the flavor some
It
too.
will, but I think they probably have done that. This has a lot more flavor than this does,
Yeah.
and more alcohol. So
And we'll be
this,
able to tell better when we put some sweetener in it.
I can almost guarantee that they dilute it. That's probably what they do to Barefoot, is dilute it a little bit to lower the ABV.
I think we need to take a tour of the Barefoot.
That's put on our
Sellers.
schedule. I'm sure they'll be happy to have us.
Okay, so should we take a little bit out so we can mix sweetener in it?
We're doing this completely off the cuff too.
Yep.
And on the sweetener, I think she's planning on doing a tablespoon at a time. Allulose is a little bit less sweet than table sugar.
Which I was actually surprised by because like stevia is like 10 times sweeter than real sugar.
Right.
So
This is a little safer to deal with because it's not. We can put a tablespoon at a time. Probably not go from way not sweet enough to way oversweet in 1 tablespoon. So that's why we're choosing to use a tablespoon. You might want to use smaller increments if you're doing this and do it when you're happy with the sweetness level. Or skip back sweetening it all.
so that was 1 tablespoon, and we'll see how much this affects it.
Affected the color.
Hey, maybe that's how you get it pink. You add allulose to it.
It looks like grapefruit juice.
It does. Looks like a greyhound. Okay. Pour that in. It's even kind of granular. That's interesting. What is this made out of? What do I want to know? Well, the ingredients are allulose. They're not going to tell me what's in it. I love how it says keto friendly, and there's pictures of donuts, cookies, and ice cream on the front of the pack.
None of which are keto
Wow,
friendly.
it's making it foam.
So there's some CO2 in this for sure.
I shouldn't have any problem carbonating it.
One of the steps of this recipe is to degas it, but it's the last step.
Yeah.
So we are tasting this with some CO2 in it. The CO2 over time will dissipate. But yeah, that allulose just kind of activated that CO2. It's over now. But.
Huh.
Okay. Okay, so she ended up adding 6 tablespoons of this allulose. Which, if you are pasteurizing and adding sugar, then it would be, so it's 1 1/3 tablespoons allulose to a tablespoon of sugar. So you'd use 2 tablespoons less if it was sugar. So if you'd be at like 4 for our 6.
Yeah.
But it's very similar sweetness level to what I was drinking, apparently faster than she was. I was taking a drink of this before every tasting of this. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it.
Uh-huh.
Just to get the sweetness level right.
So yeah, we're pretty happy with where the sweetness is now. It just needs some time to clarify, and then we'll decide if we need to add a little more of the Merlot to make it pinker or not.
So we'll probably cold crash this now. We'll stick it in our 34-degree refrigerator. And tomorrow, this should be a lot clearer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that it's worth coming back on camera for, so we probably won't.
Probably
and your
not.
results might be different than ours. You might have put more or less or no Merlot. So you could do it the way we did it. You could do it a totally different way. It's totally up to you. She likes the taste of this. Ours has more flavor than the Barefoot.
It's got more citrus flavor to it.
We are going to check the pH.
Yes, we are going to check the pH, though we're probably not going to do any major adjustments.
She will write the pH down in our batch note. And it is really a lot higher than I was picturing. It's 4.33.
Wow.
I was expecting that it was down in the 3s. If you're going to bottle this, you'd probably want to take it down to mid to low 3s before you bottle it. She's going to carbonate it. We're not going to save this long term. So she can make the call. Do you want to make it more citrusy by lowering the pH, or do you want to leave it at 4.3 and
I think I want to.
we'll drink it sooner than later?
I think I want to leave it at 4.3 for a couple of reasons. One, because I'm sure we will drink it fairly quickly, and 2, I'm going to be adding priming sugar to this and a little bit splash of yeast, and the yeast does like it a little higher.
It'll like the 4.3.
Yeah. So I think we leave it alone for now. Next step would be degassing this, and then we're done with it. Okay, so I wanted to show you our finished product, even though this is not how you have to do it. Obviously, you don't need to turn it pink like we did. You can leave it white. You don't have to carbonate it like I did. You can leave it still. It's totally personal preference, but I wanted to carbonate it. So this has been, you can see the bubbles, hopefully. This has been sitting in our little bunker, we like to call it, for a little over 4 weeks, actually. I intended to open it sooner, but, you know, life got in the way. So anyway, wanted to come show you this real quick, and we're going to...
She naturally carbonated this.
Yes, I did, in the bottle. And you can watch our video on natural carbonation. We actually use this wine on the video, so I thought that was kind of cute. So we're going to taste it now and tell you how it tastes.
Well, we already tasted it, truth be told. In the
Don't-
carbonation video.
Why are you telling them that? Ruined it for everybody. No, we also tasted it before we carbonated it, obviously, but
The carbonation level is great. The taste is great.
perfect.
The can't taste the alcohol.
Mm-mm. Yeah, that's better
But
than
it's-
barefoot.
Oh, a lot better. And it's like 12.5 or better
12
percent.
Yeah, 12.2 something. Anyway, this is the final product. Our final product. You don't have to do it this way. Hope you enjoyed this video on Moscato. Make it yourself. Leave us some comments. Tell us what you decided to do with it. We like to hear comments from you guys, and we will respond to any questions that you have. Please subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. If you have, we appreciate your support. Till next time, cheers.